160 army members' deaths and at least 1,000 injured have been prevented as a result of the FARC's unilateral ceasefire implemented 4 months ago. That is the estimation presented by Colombia's Broad Fund for Peace in its latest verification report, in which they also expressed concern over military actions that are threatening the unilateral ceasefire.
It's very important that the FARC maintains its truce, but also it's necessary to move forward towards bilateral ceasefire.
The report warns about an escalation of the conflict following the decision by President Santos to lift the suspension on airstrikes after 11 soldiers were killed during a military clash last week.
Those air raids that the president ordered to resume allegedly against the insurgency already took the life of an indigenous woman. But also today, we got informed that airstrikes over indigenous and peasant territories in Cauca are taking place.
As government airstrikes threaten the lives of rural residents, members of the Broad Fund for Peace reminded the government that millions of Colombians have been supporting the ongoing peace negotiations as the very only way to bring to an end the war and prevent further victims.
Unfortunately, there are enemies of the peace process taking advantage of unfortunate incidents to boost them in order to discredit the peace process. But what I believe is that the president needs to think with a cool head in these cases.
As for those calling for war, indigenous leaders have called on them, but also on national media outlets, to shed light on the consequences that war keeps on having over the communities living in the conflict zones.
A massacre against indigenous peoples took place recently when 8 indigenous residents were assassinated in less than a week, and nothing at all regarding this has been said in the national.
The Broad Fund for Peace has called to value all Colombians' lives equally, but mainly and foremost to realize how many lives can be saved by a definitive cessation of hostilities. Natalia Margarita, teleSUR, Bogotá.
These are just some of the faces of undocumented immigrants that have recently landed in Italy. Among them are 25-year-old twin brothers Ilya and Mohammed from Syria. Like many others, they have risked their lives traveling to Italy by boat.
The journey was very difficult. First, we were out at sea for a long time. We were at sea for 15 hours. The motor started to die, but God protected us. We were thinking we were going to die any minute. Every time it shook, we felt it was going to capsize. We had children on board. We were very scared and didn't move to protect them.
So many people have lost their lives at sea. So why did the twins decide to risk theirs?
If we had stayed in the Middle East, we would have died. You only die once in your life. We decided to risk dying trying to reach here.
But some of the migrants have not been so lucky. On Sunday, up to 400 migrants died when their boats capsized at sea off the Libyan coast. Many children were reportedly among the victims. The Italian Coast Guard only managed to save 144 people and discovered the bodies of just 9. The Italian authorities say that over the past 3 weeks, over 13,000 migrants have arrived in Italy. Every day, there are new arrivals of people trying to escape repression and conflict in the Middle East and Africa. It's reignited the debate about whether or not the country has a duty to house them. The influx has sparked a virtual collapse in the country's local and regional structures. The European Union recognizes that its current policies are unsustainable.
Of course, we know that the situation is grave, and we all must brace ourselves in the knowledge that it will only get worse in the weeks and months to come, notably as the weather improves and the instability and conflict in our neighbourhood endures.
It remains to be seen whether the EU policy reset will lead to long-term solutions. But as history shows, many more people will take the risk to join Ilya and Mohammed in hopes of a new life.
Dollar exchange through unauthorized trading points is losing strength in Argentina after the central bank decided to increase its control over the currency market. This is part of a strategy oriented to fight what the Argentine mainstream media calls blue dollar, which according to experts is a form of black market.
There is a black market which looks for foreign currency, looks for euros, dollars, etc. And it has to do it illegally. So black markets in foreign currency start forming, and they also start establishing a price. That black market has a price, and necessarily, because it's illegal, that rate is higher than the official one.
This speculative maneuver seeks to generate expectations about a future devaluation, allowing super profits to be made.
There is someone who has those dollars and might start putting them in the illegal market depending on the demand there is for them. But they also can generate their own demand in order to raise the price by saying that the blue dollar is going up, so the people get scared, and with the fear of everything falling apart and the fear of a mega devaluation to come, they will go and look for those black dollars.
Many specialists also agree that foreign currency should be used to increase the central bank's international reserves.
Foreign currency should be held by the central bank in order to guarantee having a steady exchange rate. That is the best you can do. If the dollars we receive start going somewhere else, that evidently becomes a problem.
In the first 3 months of 2015, the central bank seized over $300,000 in cash that were being used for this kind of illegal operations. The authorities have already warned that the inspections will be tougher still to clamp down on this. Laureano Ponce, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
8,000 workers of 13 provinces have received their certificates for the training they have undergone to install induction cooktops throughout the country. Sponsored by the Ministry of Work, the National Electric Company, and the Ecuadorian Service of Professional Training, these workers will now have steady employment. It is through efforts like this that the national unemployment rate has dropped over 1% since March of 2014.
Hoy por hoy, el gobierno está incrementando plazas de trabajo acerca de este medio.
Today the government is creating jobs through these efforts. They are teaching us how to perform this work to benefit the population and citizens. The electric company is valuing us by giving us stable jobs directly. We do not have to go out to find work. The only thing we need is to have all our documents complete, validated by the government, and then we can begin working with the electric company.
Lo único que tenemos que hacer es tener nuestro documento completo.
Agriculture is the largest employer in the country, as about 28% of all Ecuadorian workers are employed in this sector. In rural areas, unemployment has dropped in the past year from 3.4% to about 1.9%.
These are important programs, for example, the Quinoy program in the Ecuadorian highlands. This allows the state to really strengthen the sector and construct production centers by Quinoy, and also that the state can facilitate the work so that this product can be exported.
The Ministry of Labor has prioritized the training of workers to further stimulate national production. It has also worked to create jobs through agreements with national companies and increased investment in the private sector. Ecuador has one of the lowest unemployment rates in Latin America, which is just under 4%.
While designing public policies and working to generate businesses and quality work, the Ministry of Work, the national government, and the Ecuadorian Service of Professional Training are permanently working to create competence in the workplace.
Ecuadorian workers will continue experiencing greater possibilities for employment and stability thanks to the recently passed Law for Labor, Justice, and Social Security, which, among other beneficial measures, eliminates fixed-term contracts. Liz Sherfius, teleSUR, Ecuador.
Since 2009, the Honduran government has tried to control the campesino movement through a series of land evictions from land that large landowners claim is their property, as well as by starting legal process against the main leaders that demand governmental support and that promote the use of land for the production of basic grains through the proposal of a new agrarian reform that would put unused land in hands of campesinos.
We have evictions, persecution, repression. Up till today, we have more than 5,000 campesinos and campesinas that are facing legal processes with precautionary measures. Of these, 700 are women, and we have 16 leaders in jail without proper trial. This is a complete violation of their rights, and that is why we are here protesting from all around the country. This is the first action. Let's see if we have dialogue with the government authorities.
The campesinos have set up camp in front of the National Congress to demand the approval of a new agrarian reform that was presented more than a year ago and has been put on hold.
We live in misery because we work and work, but we are recognized just as childbearers. Our efforts are invisible, and we want our work to be recognized, our activities. We work and we bring the products of that to feed those who are in power at the moment, but they only support big business and provide no benefits to small producers.
In Honduras, 60% of the population is campesinos, and 70% of food is produced by small producers who don't own the land they work on and have no support from the government. If the campesinos protest, the government responds with violence and persecution. Tomorrow, the protest will go to the Supreme Court to demand the liberation of the 16 imprisoned campesinos. Gerardo Torres, teleSUR, Central America.
On Thursday, international activists held a conference in Damascus in solidarity with the Syrian people and against their country's policies in dealing with the Syrian crisis. Further, they called on the international community to help out with the reconstruction of Syria.
We are here to expose the overt and covert war against Syria, which the international media has sought to depict as a civil war. In fact, it is a war for the recolonization, the restructuring and the fragmentation of this entire region in a manner similar to what was done by the Sykes-Picot Pact at the end of the First World War.
Previously on Wednesday, a French delegation of 17 representatives, including journalists and law activists, visited Syria. In a meeting with the Minister of Tourism, Bashir Yazigi, they declared their solidarity with the Syrian people.
Our message is to resist. What is happening here in Syria and what was happening in Libya and Iraq, and also what is happening in Palestine, confirms that without resistance we will not achieve victory.
The Syrian people are hopeful that these delegations will affect the public opinion of the Western countries, which has been misled by several media sources connected to their governments. Nashwan Abdullah, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.